Hi, you guys. Welcome to our CS470 Recitation 5. During this recitation, I would like to talk about Flowchart and Pseudocode. I think during the last recitation, we have already covered all the contents related to advanced HTML coding. But when you are going to do assignment 4, there are still one problem existing. That you need to just insert two or three child web pages into a father web page. So you need to use a hyperlink to insert the child web page to the parent's web page. This is the topic that I have not covered during my recitation. I need to talk about it right now. For example, assume that we have four web pages here. First is parent.html, child1.html, child2.html, child3.html. So we want to build up a web page in which it contains three hyperlinks that once we click on each hyperlink, it can jump from the parent web page to the child web page. I think I've already talked about the hyperlink tag, which is anchor tag, during my recitation 3 or 4. It's very easy to just insert a hyperlink. So before that, I just use an URL as a href. But right now, the href should be the file name of the child web page. And you need to remember that you need to put all the 4 HTML files within the same folder, under the same location in your computer. Okay, so a href equal to child.html, and the text for this should be child web page 1, and also child 2.html, child web page 2. For example, you can do something like this to just insert 3 hyperlinks pointing to the child HTML file in your parent HTML code. So we just talk about process to linking the child web page from your parent web page. But what about the opposite process? Which means that when we just click into the child web page and then we want to come back to the children web page. So, for example, we assume that this is the children web page. So you just need to insert another hyperlink tag, which is an anchor tag. And right here, you just need to write parent.html. So you can just click this hyperlink and then coming back to the parent HTML. So this is a way of building up a complicated web page, including 4 web pages, 1 parent web page, and 3 child web pages. You need to do this during your assignment 4. So this is one problem I need to talk about before you doing this assignment. Let's coming back to our recitation content, which is about flowchart and pseudocode. Flowchart and pseudocode is very important for building up a content-based or domain-specific application, which means that you first need to design a operating process for your application, like what is input, output, what is a computation process, what is step 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you need to draw all the contents into a flowchart, and then write the flowchart or convert the flowchart to a Pseudocode. And then based on the Pseudocode, you need to follow the steps within the Pseudocode to write the HTML code, which is just a web page application. This is a way or importance of the flowchart and Pseudocode. So let's first come into the first part is about flowcharts. If you want to just build up a flowchart, then you need to first know the symbols, the names, and functions of the contents or blocks of a flowchart. So the first one is about the input. We all know that if we want to do something first, we need an input, right? It should be some data, including texts, audios, or some just a value or numbers. So the first symbol, the first block is a rounded rectangle. You need to remember the corresponding relation between symbol and the block name and the function. So the rounded rectangle, this type of shape represents for the start or end. So this is an oval represents a start or end point. And for the next step, I think we need an arrow to point the start to an input. So we need arrows. A line represents for an arrow. A line is a connector that shows relations between representative shapes. It's very easy. The third kind of symbol is parallelogram. The parallelogram represents for an input or output. The shape for input and outputs are the same. A parallelogram represents input or output. You need to remember the corresponding relation. And then the rectangle represents for a press. For example, if we want to just compute 3 plus 6 equal to 9 on this process, first we need a start. And then start point to an input. The input has two numbers, 3 and 6, and then points to a process. Process is adding, right? And then we just connect with the arrow to the output. The output is 9, and then connect to another rounded rectangle, which is an end, right? So this is a very basic computation process, which is formatted as a flowchart. And the last one is the decision. Diamond indicates a decision. A decision should have two branches. First is a decision is correct, another is decision is incorrect, which means that we want to just decide whether 3 plus 6 is bigger than 5. And it has two branches. Of course, this decision is correct, and then we just go to the right branch. And sometimes the decision, this diamond will be connected to some computation process. We may talk about later. And also, I will upload a reference for different kinds of flowchart symbols as your reference guide, and you need to just download it on the canvas. I will show you the file path. And next part is about creating a flowchart using your computer. Because in most cases we cannot just draw the flowchart using pens or papers. We need to draw the flowchart on your computer on the internet. So I highly recommend it an online website for creating a flowchart, which is diagrams.net. Okay, so I just opened up diagrams. So let's come into this web page. Okay, so you can just click start. Wait for a few seconds. Now, because this application of diagrams.net is built up on the Google Drive, which means that you need to connect or link your application or diagrams into your Google Drive account. And now we just click create new diagram. So we can edit the diagram name, or we can just write test .draw.io. Draw.io is the extension format for this kind of diagram, and you can just use XML file pattern, and we just add a blank diagram. But later you can just choose some templates for your diagram, like flowchart, which we will talk about today. But once you use the template, you don't need to do something from scratch. So, but for teaching you how to build up from scratch, I need to choose blank diagram. Just click create, and then use root folder. I click yes, but you can choose another folder to save your diagram to your Google Drive. Okay, so wait for a few seconds. So now we have built up a basic application for creating a diagram, which is a flowchart. So right now, this is a general tools, which means that we have different shapes: rectangle, rounded rectangle, circle, square, process, diamond, parallelogram. Parallelogram representing for process that we have already talked about before, right? So, and also you need to use a file first to just save it, or you can just export this diagram to some format that we may need. For example, later I think for assignment 5, you need to just upload an PDF or PNG or JPG file pattern for your assignment. You can just click export as and choose the extension name. And also you can just click other buttons to test the functions. First, I think I already talked about we need a rounded rectangle, right? Which is start. When you want to just build up a block of a flowchart, you can just click on the desired shape and then drag to the operating page. Okay, so it's very easy. And after start, we need a input, right? The input is a parallelogram, and then just click and then drag. And for example, for computing in 3+6, we have two inputs, 3, 6, okay? And after that, we have the first process, which is just a rectangle is add, right? Add two inputs. And the last one is you can just use a quick button, which is just click this arrow to connect and clone. Okay, so then in your desired direction, the diagrams.net will just create the same block with the same size and the text. But we don't need this, right? We need we need an output which is also parallelogram, and output 9. And after the output, we need a end, which is a rounded rectangle. When you double click on the shape, and then you can just insert text into it. Okay. And also, when you double click on some other areas, you can also build up just a text box. Okay, so after building up all the blocks of your flowchart, you can just you need to add some connectors or arrows to your flowchart. When you put your mouse on this shape, and there are some special points around the boundaries of the rectangle, so you can just click on the desired point and then drag to the next block to add some arrows. It's quite easy. So now building up a flowchart is pretty easy, right? You can just test by yourself. And you also need to remember that you can just press Control plus S or Command plus S on MacBook to save your file. Because once you lose your network connection, all the contents will be just dropped. Okay, so this is the second part. And also, when you just click on some block, when you choose one block, you can also edit the style, the text, including font size, and the formatting within the right area, the right menu bars, including style, the colors, the line pattern, and you can just test by yourself. Okay, so we have already covered the first part is which is about the flowchart, and next we need to talk about Pseudocode. So how to just convert your flowchart into Pseudocode. Pseudocode is an algorithm that may be derived from a flowchart. The Pseudocode will become a computer program by using the appropriate syntax of programming language. So that's the importance of Pseudocode. Before you building up a web page application, you need to first write your flowchart and then convert to your Pseudocode. For example, now maybe we are faced with a problem in our real world, which is about text calculation. I will show you this problem. So the text calculation problem is a company needs to calculate the taxes that it needs to pay for its last year earnings. The earnings are the difference between the revenues and expenses. The tax rate is 20% if the earnings are less than $500,000. Otherwise, the tax rate will be 30%. Okay, so this is just a real world problem that we may face in our daily life. So now our task is to just write some Pseudocodes for this tax calculation problem. Okay. I have already talked about before that first we should have built up a flowchart, then we need to convert the flowchart to Pseudocode. So for this problem, first we need to build up a flowchart using diagrams.net. So we come back to diagrams.net. So right here, you can imagine that our problems, I can just copy our problems to the operating web page on diagrams.net. sorry. I need to change the font size. So you can just imagine the computation process for the taxes. And also we also need a rounded rectangle, which is start, right? Sorry. I think I have made one mistake during at the start of this recitation. The shape for the start or end should be an oval rather than a rounded rectangle. I want to apologize for this small mistake. So we can now use the rounded rectangle as start or end. We need to use an oval. Sorry. So the start is an oval or ellipse. You can just move it to your desired space. So now this is the start, right? So double click on this block. The font size is a little bit small, right? You can just make it bigger. We can change to the 14 pt. Okay, so this is start, and we already know that the text is the difference between revenues and expenses. So the input for our tax calculation process will be the revenues and then the expenses. So the first input should be revenues, right? Revenues, and we need to delete this. We need to add another parallelogram. We need another input is expenses, right? So after we adding two parallelograms represents for the two inputs, and then we need to do the first calculation process is a rectangle, and the process is calculate earnings, right? So calculate the earnings. If we want to calculate the earnings, actually we need to do some calculation, but during the flowchart, I think we do not need to get into details of the calculation for earnings. Maybe you can just write calculate earnings equal to revenues minus expenses. Okay. So after we have already calculated earnings, then we need to just do a decision, right? We have already talked about during our requirements. If the earnings are less than $500,000, the tax rate will be 20%. Otherwise, it will be 30%. So right now we need a decision process here. So the decision is a demo, right? And the decision will be earnings less than $500,000. So you need to remember that within the diamond shape, what you need to write is just the decision condition for this decision process. You don't need to write yes or no here. And then we need another two rectangle blocks. So first is calculating tax when earnings is larger than the condition. Another is another branch when the condition is no. We need to just use the tax rate of 30%, right? So the first one is tax equal to earnings times 30%, and then we can link this decision process to the rectangle, and we can just double click on the top of this arrow to building up a text box, and right here we need to just write no, and then connect this one to another rectangle, which means that in the yes case, tax should be equal to earnings multiple 20%, and also double click, it should be yes. You can also drag this text box to some appropriate place location. Okay. So after we calculating the text, and then we need the output, right? We need to just output the calculation process. So we also need an parallelogram as your output, and right here you can just write display taxes, and also we need to combine the two rectangles to the same place. Okay, so after display the taxes, then we need an end up, right? Which is an oval. Then we come to the end, or you can write stop. Okay. So I think if you follow my steps, you have already built up a flowchart for the text calculation problem. So this is the result flowchart. You can just edit or configure the formatting of this flowchart, including the font size and other settings like the color or something like this. Okay, so we need to convert this flowchart of text calculation problem into a Pseudocode, into a segment of Pseudocode. And I need to first talk about the format of Pseudocode. First, the Pseudocode is just some plain text, and also the process is the same as the flowchart. Before the writing the Pseudocode during the computation process, we need to write start. Okay. So after after start, we need a new line, and then we need to write the second line. The second line is about the inputs. When we want to do some operations on the inputs, what we need to do is just read, right? So it's read. The first input is revenues. So after the start or before the end, you need to just write the pseudocode for the computation process, and each line of the computation process should have two objects. First is a function or commands, and the next is the objects, which is like some inputs or some objects of the command. So when you want to just get some inputs, you need to use read, and you need to remember that all the commands should be write within using capital characters. Like read should be 4 capital characters. And next we also need read expenses. After the inputs, you can record the process. We need a calculation for earnings. Then we just write calculate or compute or calculate earnings. S. You need to remember AS is also within capital pattern. Revenues. Sorry. Minus expenses. Okay. Then we need to do a decision, and the format is if-else, right? So if is also in capital pattern. If earnings smaller than $500,000, then so the decision format is if then else. Okay, so first line is if, then condition, and you need to write then. And also you need to add some spaces to show the structure. Okay. Compute or calculate, either is fine. Taxes. S. Earning. Times 20%. And else compute taxes as earning times 30%. You need to be very careful about the indents and the alignment, which means that after the start, each line is just one block or one operation, and they should have the same indents. You need to be careful about the alignment. And then in the decision process, if should be aligned to else, and within each branch, the operations within the branches should be aligned. Okay. And after else, we need to use end if to end this decision process. Need to remember, and then display taxes, and then coming to an end. So this is the first example about the tax calculation problem. This is a Pseudocode, and some other structures should be the same. You need a start and an end. Sorry. And should be just the normal format. And then you need the inputs, which is the read command, and then you need the calculate or compute command. And you need if then else end if structure to do the decision, and you need a display command to output your outputs or calculation process, calculation results. Sorry. So this is the first example of the flowchart and the converted pseudocode. So this is a problem 1, text calculation. And next, I think we can just talk about the problem of ordering food. The problem of ordering food is like this. First, you need to start the process of bidding. And then you, for example, you order burgers and pizzas on the menus. These are inputs. And calculate the cost equal to $5 times burgers number plus $8 times the pizza numbers. So this is the first process. Okay. And then you need to do a decision. If the total cost is larger than $8, you can give him or her a free coupon. And then if the for this problem, I think it can just has one one process for the branch, because that if the case is no, we don't need to do anything. Okay, so after the decision, we just display the total cost as an output and then end the process. And I can just create the flowchart for this, which is much more easy. So the burgers number. Okay, so this is the first input, and then pizzas number for ordering, and then the calculation should be total cost equal to 5 times burgers plus 8 times pizzas. Okay, so let's come to the decision process, and the decision condition is total cost larger than $10. Right? And if the case is yes, what we need to do is provide the audience, provide him or her coupon. Okay, so if the case is no, we don't need to do anything. This is the difference between this problem and the task calculation problem. So we need to just delete this process, and then we just modify the arrows. Okay, so after this, we can just display the total cost. Yeah, we come to a stop. So this is a flowchart for the ordering food problem. And then we can just modify the Pseudocode. Okay. So the Pseudocode is also the same structure. First is start, and next line is read inputs is number of burgers and number of pizzas, and then calculate total cost as 5 times burgers plus 8 times pizzas, right? So the decision is if total cost larger than $10, then provide for free coupon, right? Provide free coupon. And the problem is different because we don't need the else case, right? Because when the case is no, we don't need to do any operation, so we just delete line 7 and line 8. But we need to remember that we also need an endif, which means that if and endif will appear in the pair. When there is an if, there is an endif. Okay, and then display total cost, and then come to an end. Okay, so this is the example for ordering food, and I will leave you some small task, which is about calculating a store discount problem. So this is your task. You need to calculate a store discount. A store offers a discount for their silver and gold card members. Those with a gold card obtain a discount of 20%, while silver cardholders get a 10% discount. No discount is offered to those who are not cardholders. So this decision will be a little bit different because we need to do two times decisions, and I can you can just stop at this moment, and then you need to just think about the process. And later I will show you the result or the answer. So you can imagine that we also need a search, and then we need to take the inputs. First is cardholder category, and then the membership type. And we need to do two decisions. First is this man a cardholder? Is this man or woman a cardholder? And if the case is yes, we come to the second level decision is about the membership type, gold or silver. And if the case is no, we just give this person discount equal to 0%, and then we display our results and come to an end. If we come into the second level decision like this, we need to decide whether this person is gold member or silver member. If this person is gold member, we give this person discount equal to 20%. If no, means that this person is just a silver membership. The discount is 10%. And also you need to remember this important things, which is very important for you to doing your assignment 5, is that when you just add one diamond for a decision process, you can just only add 2 branches, which means that you can just decide yes or no. You can not do 2-level decision process within 1 diamond, which means that you can write here cardholder, and the first branch is gold, the second branch is silver, and the third branch is without membership. You cannot do this. You need to add 2 diamonds, which means 2 decision process for the whole for the right flowchart. Okay. This is very important you need to remember. Otherwise, I will give you some point discount. And the Pseudocode is pretty easy. You need to read the cardholder category, and then if cardholder category equal to true, then if golden member equal to true, then compute discount as 20%, else compute discount as 10%. And because this is a second step, second level decision, we have already finished this second level decision. We need an index. And for the first level decision, if the case is no, we just compute discount as 0%. And also we need the second index and display discount and then go to stop. Okay, so this is all for today's recitation. And I really appreciate that you can provide some feedback during for my recitation using the Google form I sent to you. And for this recitation, the attendance problem will be what is your TA's favorite fruit? The problem is what is the TA's favorite fruit? And the answer is apple. Okay? The answer is apple. What is your TA's favorite fruit? The answer is apple. This is the attendance question for this recitation. That's all. Bye. Thank you.